Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another sculpting video. Today I'm making Siren Head. I got so many requests for Siren Head on my last video that I had no choice but to make him this week. If you have no idea who Siren Head is and you really don't even know why you clicked on this video, let me tell you about it. Siren Head is a 40-foot tall humanoid creature with a heavily emaciated near skeletal frame covered in dried mummified flesh the color of rusted metal. Its limbs are disproportionately long and thin, with arms as long as its legs ending in huge bony hands. Where its head and neck would be is a thin pole of flesh with two sirens attached to them, hence the name, and several black wires snaking around its neck and into its upper shoulders. Some images depict Siren Head with teeth and a tongue, but the creator, Trevor Henderson, says that these only show when he's on a certain radio frequency. Siren Head speakers can play various types of loud noises, typically air raid sirens, garbled music, conversations, and imitations of people close to its victims. And if you thought Siren Head was a good guy for some reason, well, here's your answer, he's not. And of course, with all of this information about the character that's out there, there are a ton of different stories, so be sure to check those out if you want to learn more. And then before we get started, if you want more content from me outside of YouTube, be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter. My username is @AceOfClay, and I would love to see you there. Now let's make Siren Head. Alright, the first step is to create the internal structure of our sculpture, also known as the armature. I drilled 2 holes the size of my wire into this wooden plaque, and now I'm shaping out the legs and torso of Siren Head from this wire. And as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. Now I'm just attaching the arms as another separate piece of wire with some floral wire. And then I'm going to bulk out the torso with some Super Sculpey Ultralight. Now I'm just adding a bamboo skewer for the neck, and then giving some definition to the rib cage. And anything you do in the ultralight when you use it on your sculpture like this doesn't have to be perfect. Now let's bake this, and then once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to cover the entire thing in our final layer of clay. I am using Super Sculpey Original. And once his torso and pelvic area has been covered, I'm just going to use these snakes of clay for the legs, and I'm just going to wrap them around like so, and I want his legs, of course, to be extremely skinny, so we're not going to use a ton of clay on them, and I don't care if the clay looks perfect and smooth, because I will be giving this a creepy texture later on. Now, using some snakes of clay, I'm going to give some definition to his ribs, and I'm just going to add them one at a time from front to back, and then blend the edges in with the rest of the sculpture. This is very similar to how I add a fabric texture to my sculpts, just in this case, it's the ribs. And of course, I want him to look very emaciated like his description, and then I will then be covering this in a detail layer of like mummified rotting skin texture, and like I said, this is just the base layer for that. And then because Siren Head is not human, I'm not worried about like the number of ribs or anything. I just want to go with what I think looks good, what's visually appealing, and of course I want to stay true to Trevor Henderson's description. Now I'm just bringing out the pelvic bones a little bit with some more snakes of clay. Now it's time to start his crazy texture. I'm starting with the abdomen area, and I'm just adding a bunch of different sized snakes of clay to create this creepy, long, stretchy looking texture. I've said snakes of clay like 50 times already, and we're not even like 5 minutes into the video yet. But anyway, after adding those snakes of clay, I'm using my firm detail tool from Sculpey to blend them into the rest of the figure. And then working my way up, I'm adding some smaller snakes to the ribs, sort of stretching from rib to rib, like, you know, the skin's pulling like a zombie, think Walking Dead, that kind of thing. I'm just kind of rolling with it, using my tiny ball stylus end to blend the different pieces together and just create a nice, satisfying looking texture that looks intentional. I want all of these marks to look intentional. I don't want them to just be random pokes here and there. We're just going to continue this until the entire torso is completely covered. Now that that torso and abdomen is looking pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and add the knees. Just adding another piece of clay here, blending that in, keeping them as skeletal looking as possible. Repeat this on the other side, and then we're going to cover both legs in that same texture that we did up above. Now I'm using my Explorer tool to refine some of those details that I made with my small ball stylus and firm detail tool. Alright, now we've made it to the feet. I am just shaping them out with this piece of clay, pressing it on. I want to keep these pretty human shaped. Nothing crazy going on here. Then I'm just cutting out the toes with my broken palette knife. Yes, the broken palette knife is back. Just cutting those out, keeping them pointy looking, and then we're just going to texture these too. There's a lot of texturing in this figure. Now once his feet are done, it's time to work on that pole or the neck that's going to hold the two sirens. So I'm just adding some clay first, and then I'm going to take a piece of 12 gauge aluminum wire and wrap it around like so to support each siren. And I put the clay on first just so the wire embeds into it and makes it more secure. After trimming it to size, we're just going to disguise some of that wire in between the two larger pieces. Add some texture, of course. Now I'm just going to add those wires around the neck that were mentioned in the description, and I'm using a couple different gauges, starting with this larger one here, and then following that with some floral wire. And I'm not going to brush this with clay softener to remove fingerprints just because there really aren't any fingerprints. The whole thing's so textured and I don't want to lose any of that detail. And once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to work on the arms. And I'm going to make these just like I did the legs. And I want to give it a sort of dynamic pose, slightly dynamic. A lot of the pictures that I saw online have it in a very simple standing pose where he sort of just blends in with the landscape. So I want to kind of stay true to that, and we'll have a little more fun with the sirens. Now for the hands, I want these to be very long and skinny, and I'm starting with the back of the hand palm section with a piece of clay, and then I am poking in the fingers one at a time that I rolled some floral wire into so that they are a little more reinforced. And I'm just poking them into the clay like this. Now once the hands are done, it's time for the sirens, my favorite part. I was looking forward to this the whole time. After making this cone shape out of a piece of foil and covering it in clay, we're just shaping out the mouth area. And of course, we're going to give this thing teeth, just like the description says. So we're going to go ahead and add those one at a time, and then refine everything with my ball stylus. And then for the other siren, we're going to give it a tongue. Then once the mouth is done, I just want to recess it a little bit. So I'm going to add this tiny snake of clay around the edge and blend the outside in with my spoon tool. Now let's attach it. Of course, we got to add some bacon bond first, then stick it on. And then to integrate the siren with his body a little bit more, I'm just adding these little squiggly sort of tentacle pieces at the end of the siren like so, and just texturing them like the rest of the body. Now for the second siren, we're going to do the same process as the other one, except we're going to press out the mouth first and then add the tongue. Now we're just sticking that tongue shape on. This is just a cone shape that I've flattened, sticking it in with a little bit of bacon bond, texturing it, and then we are going to add the top teeth just like we did for the other side. Now let's finish it off with another snake of clay. Now I just want to add a couple more of those pieces on this one, again to integrate it with the body. Now I'm just adding some final details and getting it ready for its final bake. And then once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time for paint. All of the paints that I use in this video are Folk Art brand matte acrylics. And the reason he's completely painted already is because I lost the clip of me painting him that dark brown color, so please forgive me. But now we're just jumping right into dry brushing. I'm using a lighter shade of brown and just gently gliding it over the surface. I really want to make sure that I bring out every single detail that I put on this guy. And I just want to work my way up to the lightest brown that I like, and of course I want to wait for each layer to completely dry before I add the next layer of dry brushing. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to mix the paint all over the surface and dry brushing is going to be pointless. To lighten my brown color, I added some lemon custard, the color's called, and hot saffron. Now I'm going to paint the siren some metallic bronze. And for the first layer of color on the tongue, I'm going to use some of that brown color mixed with imperial red, and then I'm going to lighten it with some yellow. Now let's paint the teeth. And here I'm using some magenta and just sort of adding a wash of it here and there just to add another level of dimension to this. I don't want it to be noticeable purple on this guy. I just want it to be there. I want you to see it subconsciously. So I watered down the magenta to create the wash, and I'm just adding it sparingly here and there. Now for the final step, I'm going to glaze the tongue and teeth with some glossy varnish. And it's done! Siren Head is complete. Let me know what you think of my version in the comments, and then if you use any of the tips and techniques in this video on your own projects, share them to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and tag me at AceOfClay or hashtag AceOfClay so I can check them out. And that's a wrap. I hope you like my version of Siren Head. I'm really surprised with how much I've grown to like this character. I think he's actually pretty neat. I don't know, he just gives me this weird, unsettling feeling. I had a blast doing all of the texture on him. I think the wires look cool. I'm glad I did the different gauge wire for that. I'm glad I added the tongue to the one horn or siren. and I think he looks pretty cool. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and then follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Ace of Clay. I'm also on TikTok, so check me out there. Join my Facebook group, Snakes of Clay, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.